even though I'm happy he joined your radio show, for the 8th time in the last 9 weeks, the G-Men were victorious. New York held the Lions to 6 points, which is tied for the lowest amount of points scored by Detroit since 2010. The Giants now trail only the Patriots and Seahawks in points per game given up this season. Stephen A., is it fair to compare these Giants to the 2007 and 2011 Super Bowl teams? Do you have deja vu on your mind?
No, it is not. Only because their pass rush isn't as monstrous as it was back in 2007, 2011. Remember, when the New York Giants won the Super Bowl, yeah, you had JPP, you had Justin Tuck, you had Michael Strahan before that. You had, back to the days when the Giants won Super Bowls back in the day. It was LT and Carson and those boys coming at you. In this particular instance, when we look at this Giants defense, they seem to be a poor version of Denver from the standpoint that their secondary is their strength. It's Janoris Jenkins, even though they, I know they've had their moments, but Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie and Janoris Jenkins and Eli Apple, who made a big play yesterday and really showed why he has so much promise. It's those kind of things. Now, that's not to say they can't get at a quarterback, but that secondary sets it up because they have lockdown capability. And as a result, it gives you time to get to a quarterback. An extra second or two obviously matters. With the New York Giants from the past where they won Super Bowls, they were getting at the quarterback. And that is the difference between them and this team.
Well, Landon Collins has been balling this year. Not just look, the safeties have been better.
Him?
Oh, me.
Oh, Ryan Clark.
Okay. That's my guy.
Yeah, well, good job.
You're welcome, New York.
Yeah. Train some more. Train some of the linebackers next time. But even the linebackers have been better than you figured. And Vernon and these guys, the free agent signings have worked. Rare in the NFL it works that way. All the free agent signings that they spent big money on, Jenkins and Vernon, these guys have been absolutely balling. Now think about this Giants team. Does it remind you of the last 2 Super Bowl winners? Knock wood. Please don't say I'm jinxing anything here, but didn't catch fire till the second half of the season. Excellent defense, elite defense, peaking at the right time. Spagnuolo is the D coordinator. Just enough offense, and you still got Eli Manning, who, don't take my word for it, Nate Silver studied it, the most clutch quarterback in the history of the NFL playoffs, who, by the way, both times they were wild card teams that had to go on the road and win. It is very similar to those teams with one exception.
Yep.
They have an offensive weapon in Odell Beckham Jr., unlike anything else in the NFL, because there is simply nothing you can do. This dude, as I've been saying now for like 2 years, is the best wide receiver in the game. This is his era. Everyone else is playing in it, and there's some beasts. But Odell is different. And that little X factor actually makes this Giants team really live to win the Super Bowl right now. Knock wood. Shut up, Max. Don't jinx it.
Do you see his energy go up?
Hey, I think we should do Giants topics every time I'm on. I just like to listen to you talk about them. And unfortunately, you're right. I totally agree with that. I do see a ton of similarities between the two teams. There is a difference in which the defense plays, Stephen A., but there's not a difference in the dominance that we've seen the second half of the season. They have to go about it in a different way. If you look at the Pittsburgh game, Spags didn't send as many blitzes. Landon wasn't involved in blitzes. Keenan Robinson, Jonathan Casillas. But we've seen over the last 2 weeks him dial it up because he understands that he has dogs on the outside. Eli Apple, who many were talking about may have been a reach at number 10, has actually been a revelation late in the season. Guarding Golden Tate, who was unstoppable in many games this season, double moves, making big plays in the red zone. And when you watch this team play each week, this defense gets better and better. And it's like we're holding our breath, waiting, just waiting for 13 to catch one where you let him start to run. Right? Every time he catches the ball, I stand up and look because I want to see who is going to tackle him. He had one yesterday. He catches a short pass. It was the in route, makes 3 people miss. And I legitimately said when he caught it, he's going to score. Because that's how I feel every time he gets an opportunity to get the ball. The thing that they have to do is Eli has to understand, though Eric Flowers is a revolving door.
Oh my God!
Right? He just
that's the Achilles heel of the team.
Maybe sometimes he should just let him run by because at least he won't get the penalty. And at least
he's like a concierge, come right in.
Yeah, we will know how long it takes. Eli has to understand he has to be tough He has to stay in the pocket because when he gets the other people involved, whether it's Vereen, Shepard in the slot, that's when this offense is a lot better. And we saw some of those things happen in the second half.
I want to bring up, because if there's a problem for the Giants, it's Flowers, the left tackle, who many thought was the most talented offensive lineman in the draft, but really hasn't panned out yet. He's still very young, 22. Maybe he can get it together. He's beaten on every play. So either someone's getting to Eli, he has to get rid of the ball in under a second and a half, or they call him for a hold, because he holds on every play where someone didn't get to the quarterback. That's the Achilles heel. About Odell, you know, he has 10, ESPN Stats and Info tweeted this yesterday during the game. He has 10 touchdown catches since week 5, which leads the NFL. And I've noticed in the last several weeks, we were critical of him on this show a couple weeks ago when he was still chirping about stuff. And maybe I'm imagining it because it's since week 5 he's been productive, but boy, he looks like on a mission to me right now. Like this looks like, I know he had a couple drops, but this looks like a motivated Odell.
Let me say something. You bring up Odell Beckham Jr. Doesn't someone have to throw the ball to him? See, we get caught up in the receivers. And then, listen, Eli Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Nothing but mad respect for him. Every playoff appearance hasn't been spectacular by this man. Not every one of them.
Playoff?
Playoff.
I mean, when he went to Lambeau and beat Favre or Rodgers, or went to Dallas, beat Romo?
I'm sorry. Your high intellectual self can't distinguish between the word every. I said every. I didn't say he didn't have
you got
any.
high intellect, though.
I didn't say he didn't have any. I said not every.
He went on the road and won all those games.
He went on a road twice, but there's a couple of times, like for example, I've got the numbers right in front of me right here. Okay, he struggled a couple of games. All I'm trying to say to you is this. Odell Beckham Jr. is the man. But Eli's got to get it to him. And Eli has gotten older. There are moments where Eli has very big moments. And there are times where you have found him disappointing you. You didn't see that dude open? You didn't make that pass? You didn't get it there? What's up with you? He's been inconsistent. So what I'm trying to say to you is that you keep relying on something I'm not sure that we can pencil in as reliable all the time. Because the level of consistency that we want from some guys, sometimes he doesn't have it.
Eli, the safety Eli. What are you doing?
Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
always good to see you. Always fun. Speaking
Always
of
fun.
Don't have me
consistency.
talking too much with these damn braces.
Oh,
man.
stop
I'm
it.
bringing Donovan back here.
No.
Up next.
Rodgers gets the snap, winds up, rainbows, deep over the middle. Jordan, over the shoulder, Kirk has it, inside the 20. Down he goes near the 15-yard line. From 32 yards away for the win. Snap, placement, kick to the upright. It is good! It is good! And Mason Crosby has won it for Green Bay, 30-27. Incredible.
Let's talk about the NFC North now, shall we? If the season ended today, the Vikings would have played their way out of the playoffs in a 34-6 loss to the Colts. The Packers won a close one against the division rival Bears with Matt Barkley at the helm, and the Lions lost to the Giants at MetLife. So right now, Green Bay and Detroit control their own destiny in the two face-off Week 17 in Motown. That is going to be good. If they win out, they win the division. Stephen A., who you got winning the NFC North?
A few weeks ago, I said the Detroit Lions. I'm tempted to change my mind because I love me some Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. But I'm going to stick with the Lions. And the reason I'm going to stick with the Lions is because I don't trust Green Bay secondary. I trust Aaron Rodgers. I trust him to find a way. Ty Montgomery played like a beast yesterday. He was very, very impressive. And Jordy Nelson, had a sort of coming out party in terms of how he's looked years ago compared to how he's looked since that injury. But when I think about the Packers, it was nice to see Julius Pepper, the ageless one, get the strip sack and whatever. But I'm looking at Gunter, even though Clinton Dix had 2 interceptions. I'm just looking at that secondary. I'm looking at Randall. I'm looking at Rollins and these boys. And I don't mean to be too critical. I'm just not a believer. I'm not a believer in that secondary. I could see Aaron Rodgers going out there, balling out, making sure that these boys do the things that they're supposed to do and putting up 27 to 30 points. I can also see that secondary allowing more than that. Matt Barkley was the quarterback yesterday in Chicago. Am I correct?
Yeah, Matt Barkley.
It wasn't even Jay Cutler.
Yeah, on the wetsuit,
It wasn't even Jay Cutler.
Well, that should be an improvement according to you.
Yeah, it is an improvement because he's the worst. Jay Cutler's the worst. But the point is this. Matt Barkley brought them back from a 27-10 deficit. Matt Barkley. This secondary. I have no faith in them. I have no faith in them. And that is why I am where I'm at.
Well,
I don't believe that Green Bay is going to do it, but it's because of that secondary. It ain't because of Aaron Rodgers.
Look, I thought that Detroit would also win the division, but when Aaron Rodgers says we're going to run the table, we're going to win this thing, he's just different than everybody else. I mean, when you equalize for everything, normalize everything else against that offensive line, running game, this, that, just who is the best? The answer is Aaron Rodgers, even in a down year. He's just better than everybody else. Look at the end of that game. You're like, hurry up. What are you doing? There's no time. Why is he procrastinating? What he's doing is he sees Jordy Nelson going to be open up the middle. So he's running down the clock so the Bears have no time left. Before, in frigid conditions, he throws, you can't call it a Hail Mary because only the offensive player has a chance at the ball, which he did twice on consecutive plays in the playoffs last year, by the way, taking them to overtime. And he is playing a different game than everyone else in the NFL. That's the best player on the planet, and they're going to win because of him. He is going to bring them to the playoffs.
Well, for me, I said that the Green Bay Packers will win weeks ago. First reason is Aaron Rodgers. The other reason, I looked at their schedule as compared to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions finished at Giants, at Cowboys, at Green Bay. Against Green Bay. And so when you look at that schedule as compared to getting to go play the Chicago Bears, getting to play the Minnesota Vikings, and then facing Detroit in the last week, and we're talking about a duel with Matthew Stafford, who many people had him rising up the MVP ranks, had him as the dark horse to win it. Now, when Aaron Rodgers beats the Vikings, when Aaron Rodgers beats the Packers, he becomes my MVP.
Yeah,
you look at the numbers, and then we were talking about Aaron Rodgers early in the season, like, oh, he's lost it. Like the cliff that Max talks about, like he walked off of it early. And then all of a sudden, he's telling y'all to chill out. Now he's running around on one leg. And then Chicago Bears play a cover 4. The free safety takes the under route. He rolls to his left, throws one in the air that when it left his hand, I was like, what is he doing? It was a rainbow. It was a lollipop. And he basically handed it off to Jordy Nelson.
It's unreal.
And then he walked down the field, didn't run. He walked down the field and spiked the ball. Because he is that dude. He is that calm, that relaxed, and he believes in it. I never want to listen to him give a post-game interview. It makes me mad. The little cloud of arrogance is sitting over his head. But I've also never been that talented. And when you're that talented, sometimes you can act like that. This team...
He's your MVP.
Well, no, if he does all those things, I'm with him. I'm with Ryan on that.
Because we talked about his numbers early, and the numbers were down early in the season.
If the season ended today, who's your MVP?
If the season ended today, it's now become a toss-up. It's now become a toss-up for me. Because for me, you got to put Dak in it, right? Tom Brady has snuck. At the beginning of the season, I said Tom Brady had no chance. Even with the last game, Tom Brady now has a chance to win the MVP because everybody else
more from you.
Everybody else has fallen back to the pack.
You're better than this.
Derek Carr, right? Derek Carr. Oh, he's running away with it. And then Matthew Stafford jumped into it because he was bringing back Detroit every week. Now he's falling off. Now I expect them to lose the last 2 games of the season, which gives them a 3-in-a-row losing streak on the way out. We can't give it to him.
Ryan?
Matt Ryan's done.
So
Matt Ryan's done for me.
So Brady's been that much better than them, in spite of the fact that he will have missed a quarter of the season. You would still have him as an MVP candidate.
Right now, today, yes, I would.
Oh my God, it's even more than a quarter of the season right now.
Listen. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I believe. This is what we get to come on First Take and do. This is why we get to be on the show.
Well, the hell with that. I'm right. Tom Brady should be the leader vote getter for league MVP right now. I don't give a damn how you feel. This notion that, you missed 25% of the season. The man is balling, and they're going to finish 11-1 with Tom Brady as the quarterback, and they're going to march through the playoffs into the Super Bowl. This dude's got 2 interceptions the entire year. He's flat out balling. I don't want to hear it. Let me get
I feel like Felix Unger on The Odd Couple. Steven.
Well, unfortunately, most folks don't remember The Odd Couple, even though I do, because I used to love that show, That and the Honeymooners. But that's a subject for another day.
That's
the point that I'm trying to make to you is this. When I think about the Detroit Lions, they have no running game to speak of. Matthew Stafford got a little hurt.
It's his middle finger.
Well, that's a big deal.
Clean glove, too.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And so, again, over the last couple of weeks, he's thrown 3 interceptions. We get all that. But it's 2 games to go. I don't trust Green Bay secondary. I just don't.
Well, here's the thing. Mike Zimmer is the Aaron Rodgers killer, right? Like, that's what he's there for. And he seems to have lost the team So I expect Aaron Rodgers to win that game. And with the season on the line against Detroit, I'll put my money on Aaron Rodgers every single time. So who stops Aaron? Like, when it comes down to it, Stephen A., we all know the game's going to come down to the closing minutes, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have the ball in his hand, and I ain't betting against that guy.
I've seen Green Bay secondary be so awful. I haven't recovered from it. I don't care what I've seen.
What about their firstary, their primary?
I don't
Right
care
now, right now, you sound like a scorned girlfriend. You know what I mean? Hey, after a while, man, you got to come around. Life goes on. You got to move on for some things. Now, yesterday, right? Matt Barkley was able to get some plays after 4 turnovers. He threw 3 interceptions. Also was a sack fumble. Devontae Adams drops 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns.
That's supposed to be a close game.
Which allows them to stay in the game. Stephen A., I understand what we saw from them early on in the year. They were worse than bad. And they're not good now, but they are coming along. Randall is back. He played well other than a stiff arm he took to the face on a touchdown on a quick throw from Barkley. And so if you look at this team, they're coming along defensively enough. Not enough to win a Super Bowl, enough to win the last 2 games of the season versus division foes who have to stop Aaron Rodgers. And right now, on one leg, limping around, mushy-bodied and all, Aaron Rodgers is killing folks.
He's the best player. Okay,
Mushy-bodied and all.
Everything equal. Everything else equal. He the best player in football?
Yes.
Right. He's the best player in football.